He always arrived 10 minutes early, not because he was afraid of being late, not because anyone expected it from him, but because those 10 minutes belonged to him. Most people never noticed, and even if they did, they never thought it mattered. Every morning followed the same quiet rhythm, the same narrow street, the same cracked sidewalk, the same old tree leaning slightly toward the road as if it once considered leaving but stayed anyway. He reached the building while it was still half asleep, the doors locked, the lights dim, the world not yet asking him to be anything. So he waited. 10 minutes may not sound like much, but it is long enough to breathe slowly, long enough to straighten the code without rushing, long enough to stand still and let the morning arrive on its own terms. People later described him as punctual, reliable, prepared. They assumed his habit was about discipline, but it was never really about time. Years ago he learned something quietly. Arriving exactly on time felt loud, like stepping into a room already moving, already speaking, already expecting something from you. Arriving early gave him stillness, and stillness never asked him to explain himself. In those 10 minutes he noticed things others missed, the way the sky slowly changed its mind about the day, the way Shanta shifted a mind around, the echo of footsteps long before the people appeared. Sometimes he thought about what the day might bring. Sometimes he thought about nothing at all, and both felt necessary. No one thanked him for waiting. No one acknowledged the habit, and he never needed them to. It was simply something he did. One morning someone arrived early too, only a few minutes early, but early enough to notice him standing there. "You are always early," they said casually. Why? The question surprised him, not because it was difficult, but because he had never needed to answer it before. He smiled gently and said he liked having time. It was true, but it was not the whole truth. There was a time when he was always rushing, always arriving just as things began, always apologizing for being late, pretending he was not shaken by it. He remembered one morning clearly. The room on many flew. The conversation already started. Someone glanced at the clock when he entered. Nothing was said, but everything was understood. From that day on he learned that arriving early meant arriving quietly, without attention, without explanation, without the subtle weight of being noticed for the wrong reason. 10 minutes early meant he could enter the day gently, before expectations formed, before noise settled in. It gave him space to become himself again before becoming without the day before. Years passed. People came and went. Schedules changed. Rooms filled and emptied. But the habit remained. Some thought it was politeness. Others thought it was discipline. No one guessed that those 10 minutes were not about being early at all. They were about being early, about giving himself something small before giving anything to anyone else. One winter morning he arrived as usual, the air sharper than expected, his breath lingering longer than normal. He waited, but that morning the door opened early. Someone inside had arrived ahead of schedule and invited him in. He hesitated. For the first time in years his 10 minutes were interrupted. Inside the lights were brighter than he expected. The room already awake. He stepped in anyway and it felt unfamiliar. Not wrong, just different. That day he noticed something he had never named before. Those 10 minutes were never about being long. They were about choice. The choice of when to begin. The choice of how to enter. And sometimes being early is simply a way of protecting that choice. He still arrives 10 minutes early, even when no one would notice if he cannot. Even when it changes nothing at all. Because those minutes are ease. They always have been. Some habits are never meant to be explained. They are not there to impress. They are not there to prove responsibility or worth. They exist quietly, like a pause before a sentence. And sometimes that pause is the most important part, because in that pause he remembers who he is before the day tells him who to be. And though every morning he walks the same quiet street, past the same closed bakery, the same bus stop with peeling paint, the same old tree lean toward the road, and he rise 10 minutes early, not to be seen, not to be praised, but to give himself the gift of beginning slowly, and in a world that is always in a hurry, that small decision is enough.